Well, hello and welcome to Are We There Yet? Market Scale's online video podcast series that focuses on transportation and mobility and some of the most exciting things happening in every industry within transportation and mobility. I'm really excited for today's episode. There's a lot that's happening today in the world of aviation, and an organization that really is central to everything that's happening within the industry is the Federal Aviation Administration. And so here today from the FAA, I'm really excited to speak with Alex Muñoz, who serves as a frontline manager within the FAA's Aviation Safety Division within their Flight Standards District office. Alex, hello, and welcome to Are We There Yet?
Hey, good afternoon, Grant. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I've really been looking forward to this conversation, Alex, since you and I connected a couple of months ago, and I've just really enjoyed some of our conversations. And as I shared with you, we ought to just jump on the podcast and have this conversation and just allow the audience to benefit. So I really appreciate you taking the time to speak today. And I would love to hear from you, from the FAA directly. We're all very familiar with the FAA, and especially those that work and are familiar with things that are happening within aviation. But I know that a lot of our audience isn't as familiar with really how the FAA supports the industry. And so if you don't mind, Alex, I would love to hear directly from you a little bit more about what exactly it is that the FAA does, and even a little bit more about kind of the essence and the major objectives of the FAA within support of the industry. Do you mind sharing some with us?
Yeah. So look, all in all, the most important thing that you got to keep in mind when it comes to our mission, right, is to provide the most safest and most reliable aerospace system in the world. And here in the United States, we refer to as the NAS, the National Airspace System. And we work with all areas of aviation backgrounds, meaning it could be a 121 air carrier, it could be 145 repair station, to a small little mom and pop shop, or even a crop duster. Everything that's governed and controlled in the aerospace by the Federal Aviation Administration, we have the responsibility and we have a mission to hold people accountable, to hold people to a higher standard, right? So there's a collaboration between us, the manufacturers. For example, Boeing. Boeing is one of the leading manufacturers in the world, and as everybody knows, we had that investigation regarding the 737-800 Max, right? So that was one of those things that a lot of issues came in, and we came back to the manufacturer, work with them collaboratively, and then we were able to isolate the risk. We were able to work together with them, and in order to provide us, a safe product, right? So all in all, the essence of what we do is it's always going to be that educational, that approach of us working with the certificate holders out there and making sure that they're doing what they're telling us they're going to do. So, for example, if I go to an airline and I'm going to perform a simple inspection of the aircraft, they have to have certain processes and procedures, and then all I'm going to do is make sure that it's been held to that standard, right? And it ties to the regulatory requirements. So we are trying to really educate ourselves to a fast-moving target, meaning the industry. The industry is evolving every single day, and the FAA it's in the verge of always in that catch-up game, to where we are working with the industry, but the industry it seems like they are just a little bit forward, a little bit faster than us. But when it comes to implementing new processes, new procedures, new approaches, those are the kind of things that we are trying to make sure that we have the best interest, and it's always going to be about the flying public.
Very good. Very good. I love that. The focus on the flying public, I think, is so important, and safety. And I think we all benefit and should very much appreciate the work that the organization does, and just ensuring that the skies are safe. And I can only imagine, how fast moving that it is within the industry, and within your organization's support of the industry. Just new technologies available every day, and just so much happening in the world of aviation. And so certainly want want to compliment you and the organization on keeping up with all of that and just ensuring that no matter where the technology evolves, that you continue to really focus on the safety of the general public, as you mentioned. So really, really great to hear that. I know that you're so passionate about your work within the Federal Aviation Administration, and it's just very clear when talking with you, since meeting, how passionate you are about that focus upon safety. And if you don't mind, would love to share some of that with our audience and learn a little bit more of your story and how you joined the organization. Do you mind sharing that a little bit with me and the audience?
Yep, of course. Look, it's it really started. It came something from something negative, and it was something personal. And I remember I was 16 years old. My dad had left us. I'm the older brother of four, and one day he picked up and left, and I was with the responsibility of three younger brothers. And I'm like, what am I going to do? So one of the things that I remember, it was a summer. I was only 16, and I'm like, man, what am I going to do? So somebody said, hey, you know what? There's an opportunity in Miami International Airport. You're going to start as a helper. And I'm like, I don't know anything about airplanes. And I fell in love with it. Like the moment I got there, I said to myself, you know what? There's something about this magic. There's something about this environment that this it's higher than me. And then I said to myself, okay, then you know what? Then you need to get started on the basic.
Hmm.
And I started little by little becoming a mechanic helper. Then I became a mechanic. Then little by little, I started learning more from the older folks and the people that had more experience. And I said to myself, you know what? I think that this is something that I'm willing to give the opportunity, and I'm willing to learn and just be have an open mind. Um, but there was one thing that always kept me sort of like in that I guess in those obstacles, right? When you're starting a new profession, and it was always the thing of, oh, you're too young, or you are from Latin America, you are Hispanic, you are from Colombia. So back in that time frame, there was a lot of just turbulence when it comes to people from Colombia, because everybody, as everybody knows, people from South America, they always relate us to Pablo Escobar or something negative or drugs and anything like that.
Hmm.
So the opportunities, they seem so far away. My horizons, they didn't have clarity.
Yeah.
Um, so at an early age, I said to myself, block the noise.
Mm.
Block the noise and focus on providing yourself some kind of north, some kind of vision. You got to have a vision. And I started just developing that mindset, right? To say, you know what, let's overcome those challenges. Well, as time passes by, at 18, I remember that I woke up one day and I said to myself, you know what? Forget the noise. I'm just going to walk up to the FAA, and I'm just going to go ahead and say, I'm ready to take my mechanic's license, and I'm here. I had somebody let me borrow a old suit, I remember, and I put it on, and I went and I knocked on the door, and I remember there was two doors, and every single time you will pass one door, they had to buzz you in, sort of like when you see in the movies with jails, right?
Yeah.
And I walked in and I says, ma'am, I'm here. My name is Alex Muñoz. I've been in aviation for 3 years. I meet the requirements. Bring me the top three inspectors that can test me. I'm ready for my test.
Wow.
And then the lady was like, okay, that's never been done. And I've been here for 15 years. And I says, okay, well, then I'm ready. Well, turns out that the three inspectors came in, like just like she said, and they tested me. And they were like, kid, you got some guts. And I said, just test me. I really want to push myself. And I really want to just prove to myself that this can be done. And they were like, okay. So they started the process. I got a 92%, not bad.
Wow.
And they said, we're going to sign you off to get your mechanic's license. And then right there and then when they were signing, I remember just going back on the negativity and the people telling me I couldn't do it. And then I said to myself, is there something else that you'd like, for us to provide you? And I said, yes. There's one thing, if you don't mind, I would like to see the door which you just came in from. And the inspector said, why is that? And I said, because one day I will cross that door. I will come to this door and I will join the FAA. That will be my mission. That will be my objective. And he said, man, give me your name. I'm going to always remember this. So I looked inside and I started looking at all these people and people from, from American Airlines and people from all over. And I'm like, this is where I'm going to be. Long story short, fast forward, I started working as a line maintenance mechanic for UPS. I traveled all over the United States. I kept my focus. I remember going through freezing weather in Chicago and going through, all that process always reminded me, you have to pay your dues. You gotta keep learning, keep the objective, make sure that you're in that preparation stage. And then finally, when a phone call came in, and I just decided to go ahead and say, you know what, the opportunity came to work for the Department of Defense.
Okay.
Somebody had recommended me. I had no idea who it was. When it turned out to be one of my mentors, he saw something in me, and he says, "Hey, you know what? Give the government something." And I was supposed to be working for the Department of Defense for 1 year. I ended up working for them 6 years, and the story just evolved and evolved. And I came back to Miami, and then all of a sudden one day I decided to open my own consulting company, and I used to bring my customers to the same office I'm working. And one day I met the director of the FAA, and he says, "Hey, have you ever wanted to work with us?" And I said, "Sir, that is my dream. That is the dream of dreams. That's where I'm going to be." And he says, "Okay, well then apply. Let's see what happens." And let me tell you, the day that I applied, I just didn't think that they were going to give me the opportunity. Why? Because I was like, well, am I missing something? Is it too much? Is it too little? Because I worked for the government before, but I just didn't know how it was within the FAA. And then finally, I got the phone call the 23rd of December, 10 years ago. That was my Christmas gift. And
What a
that's when
gift.
my new life came in. And then, man, the story in the FAA has been a huge adventure. Jumping in from a rookie to an instructor at a year's time, to where I became a principal in less than 2 years. Then I became a principal with an assistant within 3 years. And then all of a sudden now, 10 months ago, I got promoted as a frontline manager.
Wow, what an incredible story, incredible journey leading up to your involvement and work with the FAA, and what an incredible journey the last 10 years it sounds like it's been. And what an amazing lesson, I think, for audience members out there to really take. I just, gosh, to go back to when you were feeling confident in your ability and ready to take that exam and to get your certification, and just to walk in to the front door of the FAA like that, with your suit on, and a very optimistic, positive attitude, and just let them know that you're ready, and you'd like to speak with the three instructors to take that exam. That's an incredible. That's a powerful story, and I think just such a great example for everyone out there. And really appreciate you sharing that, and encourage audience members out there too to take that same level of motivation and positivity into whatever they might be doing. So I really appreciate you sharing that with the audience.
And I'll tell you something else. Look, when I share this story with kids, and I do a lot of outreach for middle schools, and I do elementary and high schools and all that, and even universities here in South Florida. One of the main things I always tell them is, "What's the worst they can say? No." So if that door doesn't open, go to the next one. And the kids and then people's mentality starts changing. It's all about that mindset, to where you can flip negativity to positive. I mean, yeah, my dad left me, but I wasn't going to sit in my room and say, wah wah wah, I'm done, I'm going to be thrown out in the street. And I said to myself, no, I have a deeper responsibility. There was a calling, right? And all of us have that. And then my responsibility now that I'm in this stage is to provide the same confidence, provide those tools, that approach, to where other people are so fearful of the FAA. Look, I've approached companies to where the owners, I mean, they're just shaking their hands. And then I come in and I said, I put my pants on the same way you do. Let's
Mm-hmm.
talk.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have that. Let's change the culture.
Yeah.
The FAA, it's not the big bad old wolf that we're just there just to go ahead and be there to go ahead, and whenever you make a mistake, we are there to give you a sanction or a violation. That's not who we are. We're high level professionals that we have an oath. We took an oath to the public. We took an oath to provide that higher level of safety, higher level of education. And I think that it really starts with that mindset of changing people's perspective, but it's done by education. It's how you approach things, right? It's not getting to one place to the other. It's how you get there. How was that journey? How can we relate to each other to where we have the common goal? And the way I've always approached my previous certificate holders was, I know you need to make money. You have all these employees that have families, and you need to provide all those resources to them. Let's elevate them for them. Let's ensure that their future, the product that you're putting out for the flying public, is at the highest level. And then when you get to that level, what's the thing you never want to do? Become complacent. You know what I mean? You gotta apply consistency, critical thinking, interdependence, and those are the kind of things that we are trying to broadcast to the flying public, so they can work together with us and be able to achieve those objectives.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, mission accomplished. You're broadcasting that, and you're broadcasting that today, absolutely. And I know that the organization, the FAA, is as well, and are lucky to have you. And I know a lot of your team members that have that same level of passion. And so it's clear to see that within our conversation today. You touched on some very important objectives, and one thing that you've shared with me since meeting is this concept of VPE, as I understand it: visualize, prepare, execute. And I know that that's a very important concept within your mission and work with the FAA. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about VPE?
Yes. So this started a long time ago, and I told you exactly when it started. Remember the story when I told you that I met those three inspectors
Hmm.
and I saw the door?
Yes.
Fast forward 20 something years, and when I started the first day on the job, I opened the door of the FAA here in Miramar, Florida, and you will never guess who was going up the stairs. One of the inspectors that signed me off when I was 18 years old.
Wow.
And he remembered me, and he said, "You're the BPE kid." And I said, "You still remember that?" So throughout the years, the BPE was always a method for me to flip that negativity that I was always, encountered in my environment
Hmm.
in aviation, to where I always trying to visualize and broadcast that energy to people, to say, just overcome those fears.
Hmm.
Visualize where you want to be.
Hmm.
Then the next phase is going to be prepare. You need to study. You need to go to school. You need to make sure that you pay your dues. Make sure that you will understand what that preparation stage for you, what is it going to be? What is it that it's going to entail? And then one of the key things that that ensures that process is the execution part. When you execute, when you go to an interview, most people have a fear of interviews, and I think that for me, that has always been fun. That has always been a rush. That has always been something to where, okay, well then, that's exactly how I'm going to make sure that the visualization, the preparation, and now that I have the opportunity to execute, what is it that I'm about? What is it that I already have everything ready for me to go ahead and get to the next level? And that has always been consistent in throughout my career, my personal life. You ask my son is 10 years old. He's a top mathematician, and he always tells his teacher, "I know when to follow, but I also know when to lead." And he will tell you that. And he has that mindset. He has that bug inside. And I always tell him, always humble, always smart, okay, and trying to tell a kid, a 10-year-old kid that wants to just play video games and stuff, and for him to understand that that is part of the process. Imagine when he turns 18, when he inspire other kids. Now that is powerful. That's when the BPE just completely explodes, and then you can see the greatness in people. You can see the greatness in people at any level. I mean, Grant, if I can ask you, how long you've been doing this?
Sure. Yeah. So in the media world, the podcast world, have been doing it a few years now. And like you, it is something that I'm very passionate about. And so I enjoy these types of conversations. This is about the most fun that I can think of in my professional life. But yeah, been doing this for a few years now in terms of media and podcast.
What you just said to me It's so incredibly powerful that you've been doing it for so long, and this is so there was a word that you said, the passion. When you have passion for something, every time you do it, you get better at it, and you look back and you said, oh man, that podcast was better than the last one. I can't wait until the next one. It's not like you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh man, you know what, now I have to go do this again. Man, you know what, when I took an oath, and I remember that I went to the FAA. I was all suited up, and I'm here, swearing in and taking the oath. And every time I close my eyes and I open them and I go to the office and I'm scanning myself, I stop sometimes and I said, today's going to be a better day, a more effective day. I'm going to give it 200% because I love what I do. I fell in love with the mindset of getting there, but now that I'm there, where do I go next? The BPE process never stops.
Yep, absolutely. It doesn't ever stop. No, very, very much so. And I think that's a great way to categorize it, because I'm a believer in that too. I was certainly thinking about our conversation when I woke up this morning, and when I was driving into to the studio, I certainly was kind of visualizing and imagining how this conversation might go. And I think that's powerful. And I love how you really categorize that into kind of the visualize, prepare, and execute. So I think something that I certainly will take with me, and I really appreciate you sharing that. And you did it. You visualized walking into the FAA. You prepared for that, and full circle to where you are today. You certainly visualized it, prepared for it, and executed it, and are doing it today. And I think like you, in terms of what I do, it certainly doesn't feel like work. It's an extension of who I am in my personal life, and I think that's when you're onto something and in the right place for sure.
No, and look, and I'll share this with you. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, I got a phone call. And I think I mentioned this to you, but there was a kid. I think he was like 19, 20 when I met him, and then this is when I was an inspector, and I went to the shop one day, and he looked down, and he says, and he was shaking, and I was like, why are you shaking? Oh man, I'm talking to the highest level of aviation, the federal government, and I'm like, I'm still Alex. How can I help you? And he says, man, it's just that my dream is always to become an inspector. I'm just right now a mechanic, but I was like, okay, let's start with the basics. Let's prepare yourself with this concept. And I says, let's write it down. Visualize you're going to become an inspector, but you're not going to stop there. You're going to prepare. You're going to do this. You're going to do this. And I'm going to give you all the resources and all the tools that are within my reach, and use them effectively, right? When you start putting how would you say, when you start cultivating a leader, one of the greatest things, you don't want to overshadow his greatness. There's a light within all of us, and you want to be able to make that shine, even though he doesn't see it. That person, he or she, doesn't see it in the moment because of fear. Fear overcomes those obstacles, right? And the kid was like, oh my god, this is so great. You've inspired me. You always take the time. You have such a way to just talk to people, and it's not like what people think of the FAA. And that's when you start changing that culture, you start seeing the changes, right? Well, he made the call, and he said, hey, I wanted to share something with you. Remember about 3 years ago when you provided that BPE concept, and you started giving me all this support, and you started believing in me, and you told me to go ahead and do what I needed to do? Well, today I just came home. I graduated from the University of Embry-Riddle. I have my bachelor's degree, and guess what? I'm no longer an inspector. I am now manager of quality assurance. Now I'm the director of operations for one of the biggest MROs in the United States. And I said, I owe this to you. And I said, no, you don't. Now you see the light in you. And that's exactly what your listeners are right now, are just hopefully one can grasp the concept of what we're trying to, portray to them is the fact that there's something within all of us that at some point you have to give it flight. You have to give it that power so that it could explode. And you're going to see that there's endless opportunities out there. I mean, we're living in really challenging times, but nothing prohibits you from making greatness. We all have it. Look at you. You're an incredible success story. And I'll tell you one thing. Just on the tone of your voice, you can just tell, that there's far more passion to what you think you have, Grant. And I really wanted to congratulate you for that.
I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Well, I certainly am passionate about it, and really for me, it's a passion for individuals like you because I find individuals like you very motivating, very inspirational. I enjoy these types of conversations. I've already certainly myself benefited from getting to know you in some of our conversations. And but I want to share that. I want to share that with the world, and I want to share that with the audience. And so just it's a pleasure for me to do it. So really
Oh
appreciate that.
no,
Yeah.
of course. And look, when you have that, that mindset, and you try to, that courage. That's another thing. You have to have a level of courage in order for you to really help people and tell them, hey, you know what? Okay, so what if we fell? Get up. Let's get up. Let's walk together. Let's analyze why we fell. And that's done through another thing that we do within the FAA, which is risk analysis. It's not just because something failed. You know what I mean? Let's analyze, what was it that failed. Was it mechanical? Was it environment? Was it human? And let's see if we can put something in place as a team, right? To work as a team, and let's see if what we're going to put in place mitigates that risk, right? And then let's revisit this same issue 3 months from now, and let's see if the process is still working. Let's see if the quality assurance system, or the machine, I call it the machine hasn't had any more hiccups. If it hasn't, then we mitigated the risk effectively. And when you try to do that with, let's say, 20 something certificates, you're talking about from a repair station or flight school, an airline that has 20 something airplanes, and you're trying to monitor every single program, there's certain things that are going to be missed. But that's when the company comes in, audits themselves, and making sure that they're always monitoring their operations. And they say, you know what? We have the trust that we can talk to the FAA and say, hey, you know what? We made a mistake. We made a mistake. We want to be upfront. We want to be able to work with the FAA and say, hey, you know what? We were able to isolate the issue. Here's what happened. We did a thorough investigation. We controlled it. And we hope that we can work with you so it won't happen again. And that's really the result that we want. We want the certificate holders out there to just keep an open mind, that instead of hiding it, it's just better to work with us.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, very much so. You mentioned something as we've been talking today that I find interesting. Your support of the aviation industry is certainly with organizations, leaders like Boeing, for example, and so it's really a lot. I mean, from commercial aviation to crop dusters, as you mentioned, to drones over the past few years. And so I think when you think of aviation, it includes so many different facets and areas within the industry. And so there's been, as you've shared, a lot of changes in the industry, a lot of new types of aircraft that are out there. And so, I'm just curious about your take on some of these changes, some of the interaction of the FAA with the stakeholders. You mind commenting on that? I'd love to get some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So, for example, when we talk about Boeing, when you talk about engine manufacturers like CFM International, or let's see, Rolls Royce, right? One of the greatest things is to have that approach with these manufacturers in that close relationship, to where they bring us in, and we're able to have the responsibility and also the privilege to come in and say, wow, okay, well, you know what? Thank you for teaching us and educating us so we can be on top of the game. You know what I mean? That educational part of it, actually has been a true success for us, because we're able to be on that same level of advancement. And I think that the FAA also has opened the doors to manufacturers going from, like you said, an experimental aircraft that somebody just did it in their backyard, versus a Boeing, or versus, like I said, CFM or Rolls Royce. These companies, the more that they open the doors for us, we are able to adapt to those changes. We are able to really attack whenever there's something going on, whenever there's an investigation. When we work together, we accomplish bigger and better things. And I think that that has been that strategic approach, and really be able to obtain measurable results. That I think has been the true essence of success for the FAA. Working with that revolving door, and really just changing the culture from within. I thought it was from the outside, and honestly, to my personal opinion, I think that now that I'm inside, I think that when we work with them, we're able to cross those challenges, and then rely on them, because we gotta have that hand in hand relationship in order to make this.
Absolutely. I love that. I think it's a great analogy too. The more that they really open the door up for that type of collaboration, the greater that they benefit, and the industry for that matter benefits. And what incredible resource for all of the companies within aviation to benefit from increased interaction, increased collaboration with the FAA, because you are involved in every area within aviation. So I think even better for those types of companies out there, from the drone companies to the crop dusters to the Boeing and Rolls Royces of the world, to really encourage and support that collaboration as much as possible. You've touched a little bit, also on safety, and that's really, at the end of the day, I think that's the core of so much of your work, of the FAA, and really the organization's central purpose, is to protect all of us out there, the general public, the flying public, and so I really love that. So would love, if you don't mind, to maybe speak about that a little bit, just how the organization as a whole really directly contributes to that safety, contributes to all of us out there, the flying public, to enjoy the industry in a very, very safe way. Do you mind telling us a little bit more about some of those areas?
So, yeah, so for example, one of the things that that I have seen when it came to the organizational structure, they started doing a lot of changes, because they change is inevitable. And then one of the things that we did about, I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago, they did an internal leadership change, and it was all to make things better. Not that it were bad before, but they saw a different strategic approach, right? Within aviation safety. So there's a thing that there's a compliance philosophy that they established, and then they came about that interaction between the FAA and the flying public, to where it wasn't just about, well, you made a mistake, and the first thing we're going to do is give you a violation, and you're going to receive a civil penalty, or you are going to receive a suspension, or nevertheless revocation of your certificate. You're talking about an impact financially to large companies, to a small mom and pop 2 or 3 employee, right? So either way, whether you have 1,000 employees versus 3, you're still a certificate holder. So the FAA took a new approach, to where we implemented a concept of compliance philosophy, meaning that we can work together. Let's see exactly how is it that we can control this situation or mitigate those risks, and then we're able to provide you resources like training. Let me provide you with a different approach towards, we can seek out other specialties that we may not be aware of it, but we have to be able to use interdependence, so we can reach out to other professional entities. So then when we started doing that, the certificate holders were like, oh, okay, well, these resources are available to us. Well, then now I can make my product even more safer. So that's the objective. The objective is to reach that next level of safety, but it has to come from within the organizations working together with us. Now, to add to that, you also have that you have to have that safety culture. It has that. Now, that's something that really comes from within the company, right? Because if you are the CEO of, let's say, American Airlines, what is the difference between the CEO from American Airlines and the guy that just cleans with the broom every single day and cleans the bathroom? There's really no difference. The organizational structure, it's built that everybody has a purpose, right? And the objective is that whenever you are flying from Dallas, from Texas, or wherever you are, and then you are going to arrive here in Fort Lauderdale, you know that the FAA was involved in every single process, including pilot certifications, the airworthiness of the aircraft, that the ramp was controlled, and then the fuel was clean, and then all of the elements that encompasses the operational control of the aircraft to be flying and operating in the NOS in a safe way, you're going to have a peace of mind. That is the objective. That is exactly what we're trying to achieve every single day. And you're talking about all over the United States. I mean, you're talking about Puerto Rico, Alaska, Hawaii, all over. We are trying to really work with other entities, like EASA, like the Europeans, Canada, and we're always achieving, we're always educating ourselves, and that's what we have bilateral agreements with other countries to where we're able to interchange that information so we can become better, to see how can we improve us. The United States doesn't have all the answers. Let's be realistic. I mean, but that's why when you start reaching out to other resources, somebody else may have a different approach, and that may work. And then when by test and in trial and error, you're able to accomplish those goals. So all in all, it starts with you. It starts the day that you start your day in the FAA, and you say to yourself, how am I going to impact safety today? How I'm going to provide that level of service, that level of professionalism in customer service, to where I want to be able to learn what the issue is. I want to be able to provide you the highest level of resources. So whenever you are going to put out a product to the flying public, it's going to meet and exceed the manufacturer's recommendations.
Yeah, very good. I love that. I love the idea too that the FAA is so involved in all of those processes within the aviation industry, but even within a single flight example, as you shared, that they're involved in everything from the pilot training to testing of the fuel, and just every detail that makes up an important part of that flight. And then, to a greater extent, the industry as a whole, that the FAA is very much involved in that, and so that's great to hear. And it's great to hear that the FAA has that type of culture that really supports and promotes that, and that you're part of a team of like-minded individuals that are all very devoted at the end of the day to that focus upon safety and making sure that everything within that falls within that focus. That's really nice to hear. I always love to ask, an "Are we there yet?" question within the podcast series, and I feel like just with the flow of our conversation and nature of what we're discussing today, it's very much related, I think, to this focus on safety. And I think this idea of collaboration between industry and the FAA. I'm sure, like anything, and I'm sure with you, just because I feel like I'm really getting a nice grasp of who you are and your character, which I really admire. So I think everything is always improving. It can always be better. But in terms of kind of this idea of, are we there yet, in terms of kind of full collaboration within the industry, within all the companies, the Boeings, the crop dusters, the drone companies, everyone, the MRO companies, for example, are you seeing things over the last few years where you feel like that collaboration is happening even more so, and that everyone is kind of working, together within some of these common goals? You're seeing some positive things over the past few years that maybe echo some of what you're so passionate about?
So look, all in all, it's all about enhancing global leadership.
Yeah.
And if you want to be a leader, you also got to know when to follow, right?
Hmm.
And in that learning process, when you have the ability to impact aviation on a safer and smarter approach, I think that that's one of the things that within the last, I would say, 5 years, I have seen a significant change when it comes to that interaction and relationship, to where the culture, it's changing, it's evolving. And one of the good things is that I'm seeing personally is the fact that the FAA, it's even more involved with the flying public, that we're reaching out, we're doing outreach, we're making sure that the people understand that we are public servants, and that we want to provide clarity, and we want to be transparent, and we want to be able to say, this is exactly how things are. This is exactly the consequences of if you don't follow what the manufacturer is recommending, or you're not following your own processes and procedures. let's not focus on the negative, but let's make sure that the aerospace system, it's safer every single day, but we have to do it together. So for example, I'll give you a prime example. The whole thing with UAS is just a global thing, force that just exploded in our face, and slowly but surely part 107 started coming in and started evolving, and it started adding more regulations, and it's going to take some time to really control what's out there. But at the same time, it's one of those things that we have to be able to have an open mind. If you're going to be a leader, which we are here in the United States as the administrator, you have to be able to have an open mind to say, you know what, let's learn from them. Let's bring them in. Let's see if they can provide us also those resources and understanding. And how does this work? How can we make it better? And you know what I've seen? I've seen more companies in South Florida coming to us to where, hey, we want to do things right. We want to go ahead and do these types of operations. Can you provide us some kind of guidance? And that's exactly what we do. We have a guidance, and that guidance really provides a platform to where they know how to implement the who, the what, the where, and how. Make sure that they use that interdependence, critical thinking, and consistency, and making sure that they have effective controls to be able to mitigate those risks. That's where safety lies, right there in that nucleus where we're all working together for the same objective. And I think that if we continue that path and we continue that mindset, right, we're able to accomplish one level at a time. You're never going to be perfect. Aviation is it's a fast moving target, but if we just analyze how it works and how we analyze the essence of change, then change, once you accept it, then you're going to be able to respect it.
Very good. That's great. One thing recent in the news that I am really fascinated about is, as you well know, the Boeing just recently completed its final 747 and delivered to an incredible client, Atlas Air.
That's
And
there, yeah.
yeah, and then the aircraft, as I understand, on its way to FEAM, a leading MRO company who will be maintaining the aircraft. And just what an incredible milestone that is. I mean, you can't help but just take a minute and just look back on the origin of the 747 and the story, and just how incredible not only it is as an aircraft, but just as kind of a big part of our world today, if you will. I mean, I understand that the 747 was really key to some of the international relief operations throughout the world, and bringing food and supplies to those in need, and to countries with struggles and with things going on. And so just in terms of kind of international relief efforts, in terms of kind of the world that we live in today, with goods being shipped internationally, and at the speed of air, for example, Air Force One, that kind of program, and so there's a lot. And for me, too, just sharing, I think the 747 has a special place in everyone's heart, not just individuals within aviation, because it kind of went along with maybe certain memories or moments in our lives, or first time that we saw, a 747. And so I know, I mention all of that because it's a big deal, I think, within aviation, but just even outside of the industry. And I know that the FAA has been a big part of that entire program, and even leading us up to today. And I also think it's kind of cool to think about, with the last one just being completed, that we'll continue seeing 747s in the sky
Hmm.
for a long time, because
Yeah.
they have a pretty incredible life. So was just curious. That was something recent in the news. I know is a big part of the industry. I know is a big deal, of course, to the FAA and to you. And just curious if you had any comment or insights on that milestone kind of within the industry.
You know, I can't go on. I just remember something very important that I wanted to just say.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm here because of Cam Murphy,
Yeah.
and he was the one who connected me to you.
Mm.
And I'll tell you, I have to go ahead and congratulate Cam
Yeah.
Murphy and his dad,
Yep.
and his in the whole entire organization of FEAM. I have seen the changes to where they have been able to adapt, because even through COVID, they still were maintaining Atlas and Polar and these big airlines that transport so many things that they're both for commercial and also military, right? So they have an impact at every angle of our everyday life. And then when you come and you're able to overcome those challenges and really the world and the world of aviation in itself, you're talking about making history, and you have to be very very proud of that, because let me tell you, with these challenges that we live every single day, to keep up with that it's a challenge. And let me tell you, it really takes a unique entity for it to be on that level. So, if he's listening, Cam, congratulations. You and your organization are going to continue to make history, and I think that FEAM is going to continue to evolve, and I'm super proud of them. I was their principal maintenance inspector for 4 years, and I was very much involved with Atlas, and I was super happy to hear that.
Yes, yeah, I was too. It was incredible. I remember. I think originally heard some news, came coming out of Boeing, of course, and they had an incredible event where they completed and opened the big doors and unveiled just the incredible aircraft that will be the last manufactured 747, and was just incredible milestone within the industry. But then to know that was on its way to FEAM was pretty special to me as well. And I think what a great example of an organization that I think aligns with so many of your philosophies and that devotion to safety and to as you mentioned, keeping things going amidst different conditions, things happening not only within the industry but in the world in general. So I couldn't agree with you more. Just an incredible company and well deserving of really
Yeah,
the honor
it's
to
an honor.
continue to
Yeah. Hmm.
maintain that last aircraft. So that will forever be a very special aircraft. And so really appreciate that, and some of your insights even on that special project. And so I just, I want to share with you, Alex, just what a pleasure it is to have connected with you. We've had a few conversations. It's really been a lot of fun today to have the conversation within the Are We There Yet series. But before we, wrap things up, I'd love to provide you an opportunity. If there's anything else that you want to convey to the industry or the audience out there, would love to provide you an opportunity to do that. So, and at the same time, please, if you would, maybe direct individuals to where they can learn more about the Federal Aviation Administration, because I have kind of a feeling that our conversation today may motivate some younger individuals out there that might want to pursue a career
Hmm.
in FAA. And so I think you've maybe instilled, that today within some of the members. So would you mind, any final thoughts that you might have, or if you would maybe direct some of those individuals to where they can learn more about being a part of what I know is an incredible organization?
So look, I've always seen aviation as the air beneath my wings. I've always seen it as that horizon to where there's always going to be something bigger. If I can leave something to your list, to your listeners, will be never give up. The worst question is the one you don't ask, and the worst door is the one you don't knock. And I'll tell you this, if people that are out there that want to join the FAA, they could always apply in www.usajobs.gov, create a profile, and there is opportunities all around the United States right now, actively right now, to where you could come in as an aviation safety inspector, to become an airworthiness inspector, avionics inspector, or an ops inspector. Even for administrative, there's opportunities all over the United States. And one of the things that I always keep telling people is, if you are right now a mechanic, you can be a supervisor. And if you're a supervisor, you could be a manager. If one person did it, why can't you? Just apply that BPE to every single platform. You could be in aviation, you could be a lawyer. I mean, you could be a nurse. Why can't you be a doctor, right? That concept applies to anybody. And I tell you one thing in regards to, to follow up with the question is, you know, just make sure that if you have done some kind of impact, make sure you document it, because if it was never documented, it never happened. So that's one of the things that we are looking for. We're looking for professionals in the aviation field that are able to demonstrate to the administrator that they also want to make an impact, that they also have the desire to move forward, that they went from a mechanic to an inspector to inspector to a director. And those leaders are the ones that we want to be able to bring into our culture so we can make a higher impact in aviation safety.
Very good. Very good. That just a great way, I think, to recap so much of the thoughts and just I think some incredible motivating words of encouragement for those out there that would be interested in working with the FAA, and just really appreciate that. Appreciate you so much, just sharing some insights into really how the FAA really supports the aviation industry, and at the end of the day, really ensures for all of us that we're flying safely. And so, really appreciate some of those insights into very specifically how the FAA does that. And maybe most of all, Alex, I really appreciate some of the stories that you shared with us today, and your journey from being an individual that was passionate about your work to walking in the front door of the FAA, circling back and now having served 10 years within the organization and within a leading role today within the FAA. So thank you for everything today, but especially for sharing your journey and some of those stories. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited for our next conversation already. This has been a lot of fun. So thank you.
Grant, thank you, you and your staff and everybody that's within your organization to giving me giving me the opportunity to be here, and hopefully we inspire one person out there. And if that person is listening right now, hey, you know what? There's nothing bigger in life than just making sure that you provide clarity to that vision, and when you execute, you're going to see the rewards, and the rewards will come. The rewards will come. So I think that if we could leave that today, then I did something right today, and I'm super honored to have been here with you, Grant. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. I know you accomplished that. And I know that it will be just one, and with one would be mission accomplished, but I'm sure there's going to be many out there that will be very inspired from your story today. So thank you so much for that, Alex, and look forward to our next conversation.
I look forward to it too. Thank you, Grant.